Join today to take your SAT prep to the next level. Members get access to over 1,000 solution videos answering the questions in College Board's Question Bank and concept-based practice questions with videos to solidify your SAT skills. Thanks for watching. Grateful.
Now starting with question number 1, here we're being asked what is the predicted value, which is the y-axis on this graph, when we are 3 years after purchase. So looking at 3 years after the purchase, what is the height of the prediction line? And it appears to be between 10 and 15, but a little closer to 15. So let's say 13,000. And which answer matches that most closely? B for boy here. Going over to question number 2 now. This question is actually really asking us about the definition of the word solution, which is surprisingly complex. For a single curve, the solutions are the x-intercepts. So these places right here would be our solutions. But if you have multiple functions, the solutions are the places where those functions hit each other. So not the x-intercepts, but the intersections among the curves themselves, or the curve and the line in this situation. So coming back over here, we have multiple functions, and so the solution is going to be the place where they both hit each other. It's going to be the point 4, 5, which is answer choice C. Going over to question number 3 now, this question is asking us for the x-intercept of the graph, and your x-intercept is the place where y is 0, your y-intercept is where x is 0. So for us, the x-intercept being where y is 0, that means we have to look along the y-axis and figure out where is y0. That would be right here on the y-axis, or anywhere at this level. Any of these points will have a y value of 0. So now, where does that line of y values equaling to 0, where does that line hit the function? And of course it hits it right here when x is 5. So x is 5, y is 0 at that point, and that's answer choice B. Now going over to question number 4, here we're being asked for the probability of selecting a house that's blue. And simple probability is simply the part over the whole. So in this situation, the part that we're talking about is the number of blue houses, which is 2. And the whole number of houses is 7. So 2 out of 7 is answer choice B. Now going over to question 5, here we're being asked whether this is linear or not, and whether it's increasing or decreasing. So let's talk for a second about linear versus exponential functions. Linear functions are functions where you're adding. If you're adding the same thing each time, you'll get a line. In an exponential function, on the other hand, as x is going up by 1, instead of adding, we're multiplying y by something. So in this particular situation, we don't really need to know whether we're adding or multiplying, because you can simply see that this is a line. So we can just call it linear, get rid of exponential. And in terms of whether it's increasing or decreasing, everything on an xy axis is done from left to right. So if you want to know is this increasing or decreasing, ask yourself what is happening as it goes from left to right. And as it goes from left to right, it's clearly on its way up. So it's increasing. We can get rid of decreasing. And so the answer that has nothing crossed out here is A. Now going to question number 6, here we're getting an equation and we're being asked to turn it into this. So if we want n plus 4, then it probably helps to just get n by itself first. So let's do that. Right now, what is happening to n? It is being multiplied by 6. So the opposite is to divide by 6. So let's just show that here. Divide by 6, divide by 6. That'll cancel there. And we'll get n is 12 over 6, which is 2. So now we need n plus 4. So let's just add 4 to both sides. And now we have n plus 4 is 6, and that's our answer. Now we're going to question 7, and here you have an f of x operation, and these are surprisingly challenging for people. So let's review real quick. If you have an f of x expression like this one, if you see f of a number, in other words, there's a number in the parentheses, you set x equal to that number. So in my example, it would be 2 times 3 minus 7. But if, on the other hand, you see f of x, or g of x, or h of x, equal to a number, that means y is that number. So you set the whole thing equal to that number. So coming back over here, we have f of 10, which, according to our definition, means x is 10. So just rewrite it with 10 in place, and that's 4 times 10 minus 3, 40 minus 3, which is 37. So the answer here is B.
Join today to take your SAT prep to the next level. Members get access to over 1,000 solution videos answering the questions in College Board's Question Bank and concept-based practice questions with videos to solidify your SAT skills. Thanks for watching. Grateful.
Now going to question number 8. Here we're being asked for the y-intercept of this graph. And don't forget, the x-intercept is where y is 0. The y-intercept is where x is 0. So here we want the y-intercept. So we want to know where x is 0. Here's the x-axis. So here you have x is minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So x is 0 right around here, or anywhere along this green line. You can think of that green line as the collection of all the points that all have an x value of 0. So in any case, where is this line hitting that one? Where is the y-intercept? Right here at negative 4. So that's the point 0 for x and negative 4 for y, which is B. Now going over to question number 9. Here, we're being asked for the solution, which, as we've said, means a lot of different things in different situations. But here, we can take advantage of the idea that this is really an intersection. And to find an intersection, you want to get both equations in the y equals format and set them equal. And that's essentially what the solution is. If you have multiple functions, it's the intersection. So taking advantage of that way of thinking of it, we can say this 28 equals this 12x minus 20. And we can just start solving. Now we can add 20 to both sides. And we'll get 12x here equals 48 here. Now we can divide by 12. And we'll get x equals 4. So now that we know that x is 4, there's only one answer that has that. And so we don't have to plug this back in, even though we already knew y would be 28 anyway. So the answer here is A. Question number 10 is a great opportunity for us to go over our average vocabulary words. So we need to know that the mean is the actual average, the sum over the number. The mode is the number that repeats the most often in a set. The median is the middle number if they're in order. By the way, if you have an even number of numbers, that means you have to take the mean of the middle two numbers. Last but not least, the range is the distance between the highest and lowest numbers in your set. So coming back here, we're looking for the range. And the lowest number is 23. The highest number is 52. So what's the difference between the highest and the lowest numbers in the set? And on the calculator, 52 minus 23 is 29, and that's our answer for number 10. Going over to question 11, here we're being asked for the solution, but that actually means a couple of things. For a single curve, the solutions would be the x-intercepts of the curve. And for multiple functions, the solutions are the places where those functions hit each other. not the x-axis, as they would be in the first scenario. So here you have multiple functions, you have these two lines, and the solution therefore would be where do they hit each other? And they clearly hit at the point 4, 1. We're being asked for the x value of that, which is simply 4 here. Now going over to question number 12. Here we have another f of x expression. F of x, g of x, h of x, no real difference. But for these, you want to know that if you have a number in the parentheses, so for instance, f of 3 or h of 3, that means replace x with 3. But if on the other hand you have the whole thing, f of x or h of x or g of x or whatever, equal to some number, that means you set y equal to that number. In other words, the whole thing equals that number. So coming back here, we're being asked for h of 2. So that's the idea that x is simply 2. So h of 2 is 8 over 5 times 2 plus 6. So that's 8 over 10 plus 6. So 8 over 16, which will simplify to 1 over 2. And that's our answer for number 12. Going over to question number 13. Here, we're being told about a linear function, a line, with a slope of 39 and a y-intercept of 0. So now, how do we know the y-intercept is 0? That's because your x-intercept is where y is 0. Your y-intercept is where x is 0. So where is it that x is 0? Well, when y is 0, right here. So our slope is 39, our y-intercept is 0, and putting that into y equals mx plus b form, that's y is 39x plus 0. Or you can just not write anything. And so that's answer choice D for number 13. Going over to question number 14, here we have something that looks like a more complicated word problem, but you can simplify it by just thinking about what each variable represents. And here, S is the rate of snowfall. And then we're being told that the minimum rate of snowfall was 0.6 and the maximum rate of snowfall was 1.8. So this S value that we're being told about can be anywhere between 0.6 and 1.8. And we're going to replace the less than symbols with less than or equal to because they can equal 0.6 or 1.8 the way it's being described here. And that matches answer choice D.
Join today to take your SAT prep to the next level. Members get access to over 1,000 solution videos answering the questions in College Board's Question Bank and concept-based practice questions with videos to solidify your SAT skills. Thanks for watching. Grateful.
Now going over to question 15. This is the kind of question you really want to get good at to really boost your SAT score. So let's just draw an x and y axis. Here we have something in y equals mx plus b form. So you can tell that the b, the y-intercept, is 9, and the m is 14. So if we just draw a y-intercept of 9 and then label this with a slope of 14, let's go ahead and now just label what the y is. The function, which is your y, your f of t, is the length in inches of the plant. So let's say length here in inches. And on the other part, we have t, which is the x value, and that's the months after purchase. So let's label this axis the months after, or the months since this thing was purchased. So now the question is asking us, what is our interpretation of the 9? Well, the 9 is right here, and that's the starting y value, the y-intercept. So it's our starting amount of whatever y is, which in this situation is the length. So it's the starting length, and by starting, we mean 0 months after purchase, because that's what you have right here. X or T is 0. So it's the starting length right at the time of purchase, 0 months after purchase. And which answer says that? And that's answer choice D. It's the length of the vine plant was 9 inches when the person first purchased it. So that's D here. Now going over to question number 16. Here we have a right triangle and we're being asked for the area. Now the area of a triangle, that's 1/2 times base times height. And the base is a length of 5 and the height is 3. So we have 1/2 times 5 times 3, which is 15 times 1/2, or half of 15, and that's 7.5. And that's our answer to number 16. Going over to question 17, here we're being given x and y values, and we're being asked for the equation of the line. So this is our bread and butter here. Here we can just use the slope formula to find the slope, and then from there you're choosing between the slope-intercept formula and the point-slope formula. You're going to want to use the slope-intercept if you have a y-intercept, which by the way is the moment when x equals 0. So here we don't have a y-intercept, so we'll use the point-slope formula. So let's start getting the slope. y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, which is 21 minus 16 over 3 minus 2. And so that's 5 over 1, or just 5. Now we can plug that into our point-slope equation of the line, which looks like this. You want to pick the easiest point you can pick along with the slope that you have. So y minus 11 is 5, x minus 1. Distribute, y minus 11 is 5x minus 5. And then add 11 to both sides. Y is 5x plus 6, which is answer choice A here. Now going over to question number 18. Here we have two y equals expressions and we're being asked for the solution. The solution for two functions is really the intersection. So one way to think about this situation is that if you want to find an intersection, you should get both of your equations in the y equals format and then set them equal. So here, that's a little extra easy because they're already in a y equals format. So if we simply set them equal, it'll look like this. And right now, we should be saying to ourselves, this is a quadratic. Because when you have any variation of y equals x squared, that's a quadratic. And for these, you want to get everything on one side equal to 0, preferably with the x squared term being positive. So let's try that. So all we need to do is take away 4x from both sides. And right now we'll have 0 equals x squared minus 4x minus 12. And now we're in a BC factoring situation because we have an ax squared plus bx plus c quadratic, but we only have numbers in the b and c spots. And for BC factoring, you want to ask yourself, what two numbers add to b, which is -4, and multiply to c, which is -12? So what two numbers add to -4 and multiply to -12? And the answer is -6 and +2. So we'll factor it to x minus 6, x plus 2. And now we have the zero product rule. That says that if two parentheses multiply together and the answer is 0, that could only have happened if one of them actually was 0. So let's set them both equal to 0. X minus 6 is 0. X plus 2 is 0. And solve them both. Add 6 to both sides here. Take away 2 from both sides here. And we have 6 and -2. What is the value of x? Well, by the way, the question is saying that when you're picking your answer, keep in mind that we want the one that's greater than 0, the positive one. So we can get rid of that one. And our answer is 6. Now going over to question 19. Here we're being asked about the ratio of coaches to athletes. And that ratio is given as 1 to 26. Now, if there are x coaches, how many athletes would there be? So one thing that's tough about this is that they gave us one variable in this question. And so it's mentally a little tough to say, well, even though one variable was given, I need to create the other. So that's mentally a little difficult there. But now that you have created this variable, if you get it by itself, it'll give us the answer. So let's cross multiply that. 26 times x equals 1 times y. And once again, we're being asked for y. What's y equal to right now? 26x, which is answer choice B. Now going over to question number 20, before we get into it, let's review exponential equations. So our main exponential equation, a times b to the x, says that a is the starting amount, b is the way it changes, and x is the number of times that all happens. Now the two main variations would be if instead of x you had x over 3 for the exponent, that means this thing is going to change once every time x goes up by 3. So for instance, if we're dealing with time, it would change every 3 months. And having a 3x here as an example would mean that it's changing 3 times every time x goes up by 1. So for instance, if this is a financial account, I'd be getting my money, my sort of growth of my money, 3 times every 1, let's say, month. So coming back over here now, this notation is kind of a variation of saying f of x is 1 times 1.84 to the x over 4. So according to what we just showed you, this thing would be starting at 1. It would be going up 84% because, by the way, if we start at 100% and then go up or down by 84, it's going to take it up to 184 or down to 16, and these are percents. And in decimal form, you'd have 0.16 here or 1.84 here. So that 1.84 means that our number is going up 84%. So it's starting at 1, it's going up 84%, and that's going to happen every time x goes up by 4. So if we're dealing with months, that would be every 4 months. So the question is saying, okay, we have this thing that's going up 84% every time x goes up by 4. And then we're now being asked, how does that fit into this equation? And that is like your standard exponential equation. Y equals a times b to the x. Now this part in here, the 1 plus p over 100, that's just a fancy way of doing what we were doing here. So 100 plus 84% would be 184%, which is 1.84. So just imagine here that p were 84 over 100. This would all be 1.84. So now we're basically just simply being asked here, by what percent is this thing going up in the situation of a function that x is just increasing by 1? So just to review, we've got a function where we're saying this thing is going up by 84% every time x goes up by 4. And then we're being asked, well, by what percent is this going up every time x goes up by 1? And it's a really sort of tough theoretical question here. But the way to solve it is really easy because all we need to do is just say, okay, well, what if x equals 1? What would happen here? So f of 1 is 1 plus p over 100 to the 1. And what about in the other equation? F of 1 is 1 times 1.84 to the 1 over 4 power. Now, on your graphing calculator, we recommend the TI-84 or Desmos. Actually, really, we recommend both. But for certain things, one is better and the other is better for other things. But here, I would go right into the TI-84 and go ahead and say 1.84 to the 1/4 power. And that's going to come out to 1.16 and some further decimals. So in other words, this thing, even though it started at 1, it's now 1.16. And so what is our percent change there? Now, the reason we're looking for percent change is that the final question was saying, well, what is the value of P? P is the P over 100. That's a way to write a percent. So really what they're asking is, by what percent is this thing changing in the new equation? And the formula for percent change is your change over the original amount. Super important formula if you're ever asked by what percent did something change. So for us, this thing changed by 0.16 because it went from 1 to 1.16, and it was originally 1. So the percent change there is 16 over 100, which is 16%, and that's our answer for number 20. Now going to question number 21. Here we're being told that the triangles are similar. Similar means they have the same angles, although they are different sizes. They're proportional sizes. So let's identify which angles are the ones that match each other, because for similar shapes, you can use the angles as a roadmap of what relates to what. So we have the blue angles, the red angles, and by definition, if you have two pairs of angles in triangles that match up, the third pair will also match up. So now we have our three pairs of corresponding angles, and we have a bunch of side lengths. ST is 14, so let's write that. QP is 15. PR is 20. And QR is 25. And we're being asked for SR, so let's call that X. Now we can write a proportion of any two pairs of sides that correspond. So if we say 15 over 14, we're getting the big triangle over the little triangle, and we're getting the two sides that are between green and blue angles. So 15 over 14 would equal 25 over X, because we've got big triangle over small triangle, and we've got the sides that go from green to red. So we've got a proportion that works, and now we can cross multiply. 15 times X equals 14 times 25. Multiplying that on a calculator, we get 15x equals 350. And next, we'll divide both sides by 15. And even though the instinct is to simplify this, or to get it as a decimal, you can see that 350 over 15 is one of the answers. So the answer here is A. So now going over to question number 22, we're being told about a triangle that is a right triangle because it's got B as the right angle. AB is 10 root 37. So let's just write that in here. AB is 10 root 37. And BC is 24 root 37. It doesn't have to be to scale, obviously. So we're looking for AC. And for that, we can use Pythagorean. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. So 10 root 37 squared plus 24 root 37 squared equals C squared. So squaring the 10 root 37, 10 times 10 is 100. Root 37 times root 37 is just 37. So let me make this a little neater. We have 100 times 37 plus 24 times 24, 576, also times 37. So right now, we've got C squared is equal to 100 37s plus 576 37s. So instead of actually putting that in the calculator, I can say this is 676 37s. So similar to if we had 100x plus 576x, that would be 676x. And the reason I'm doing it this way is because if you take the square root of both sides right now, square root of 676, well, that's 26. And we have the square root of 37. That doesn't have a square to it. So 26 root 37, that's what C is. And that's answer choice B here.
Join today to take your SAT prep to the next level. Members get access to over 1,000 solution videos answering the questions in College Board's Question Bank, and concept-based practice questions with videos to solidify your SAT skills. Thanks for watching. Grateful.